Hello and welcome to this read and watch video all about Jane Austen's Northanger Abbey. I will have a few words to say about both screen adaptations, both of them TV movies, but first my relationship with the book. I've really only started to read Jane Austen within about the last 10 years or so, which isn't a long time to get to know 6 novels. Some of the books I feel I get more than others. Some of them it took a second reading and or even an adaptation to help me out a bit. Northanger Abbey I did feel like I got straight away. I mean, not everything obviously, and if anybody would like to teach me something in the comments, I'd be only too delighted. But overall, I feel I do understand and I do enjoy this book. There's something in Austen's narrative voice that I feel really can't be captured in any other medium, with this book more than others. And that's really the mickey taking, the sarcasm, the sense of humour that is uniquely hers. It probably helps that my edition of this one has notes, so if I get to a passage and I see a little number and I think, oh, what am I missing here that's noteworthy, I can just flip to the back and educate myself. For instance, when John Thorpe is kidnapping Catherine, but not really, and certainly not in a Gothic sense, I didn't actually know that more traditional sinister kidnappings were a trope of the Gothic fiction that Jane Austen is taking the mickey out of until I flipped to the back. Speaking of that sequence, it isn't in the 1987 adaptation. Neither one has every sequence that I'd like from the book. Neither one has, for instance, that little monologue of Catherine's when she's trying to explain to Henry Tilney how John Thorpe made her miss that walk by driving off in the carriage with her. I say monologue, she keeps turning to Mrs. Allen for confirmation of what happened, but in her anxiety to get her explanation all out doesn't actually wait for a reply, and then it finishes up with her protestations in the carriage, how anxious she was for John to turn back. Mrs. Allen was not, oh, but you weren't there. I'd like to see that on a screen, and if it ever happens, there will be 3 adaptations, and I'll have to make a ranking video then, won't I? As it is, my rule is that 2 is too few for a ranking, and I'm glad of that because I don't really know how to choose between these 2. There are 2 scenes where John Thorpe is being an absolute dick that I think ought to be included, but these 2 adaptations choose between them. Unlike 2007, 1987 doesn't have that kidnapping scene. It does have him cancelling Catherine's plans for a walk with the Tilneys on her behalf, and that time she asserts herself and goes and undoes his meddling, which shows a bit of character development, doesn't it? Whereas 2007 doesn't have that scene. I think I prefer the 1987 cast overall. But then there are exceptions, or at least one exception, someone I do prefer in the 2007 cast. I shall not single that person out. I think 2007 interprets a couple of scenes much better. Catherine discovering the mundane papers about the linen, the sinister possibilities of which have been haunting her all night since she lost the light of her candle. That's what Jane Austen meant. Things are not nearly as sinister as Catherine's obsession with Gothic literature has led her to believe. In 1987, those papers actually seem to say something quite mysterious and intriguing.
The same day at 3, you and I beside the unknown woman.
Which we don't even come back to, so I'm not quite sure what they were doing there. I also very much prefer, in 2007, Henry's reaction when he learns of Catherine's suspicions of his father. And 1987 rather glosses over the fate of Isabella Thorpe, as inflicted upon her by Captain Tilney. 2007 does not gloss over that. However, another thing that I prefer about 87 is that I feel it better evokes the Gothic in Catherine's fantasy sequences, or at least my understanding of the Gothic. And all of this leads me to the conclusion that 1987 comes over better to me as a whole. Bits of 2007 are superior. So very glad I am that I don't have to make a ranking video. Of course, nobody's forcing me, I don't have to, but I am very grateful for the attention and the 2 or 3 requests that I actually cover Jane Austen, so thank you very much for that. I intend to continue to do so, and those must be ranking videos, must they not? In the meantime, thank you very much for watching this video, and goodbye.